4 minutes past the hour one, right here on 88.2 Love at First Sound. UNESCO FM is your favorite frequency. We are live on the fourth and final hour of the show. And you do know, like I did say earlier on, that we have an interesting lady who is going to be gracing our seats. I like to call her Afro Soul royalty because of how amazing and angelic her voice is. It gives me a sense of relief. Imagine just sitting in a camp chair listening to her serenade you with her music. The one and only KHOLE Shabalala is joining me in studio. KHOLE, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, Andile. Especially after that introduction. Wow, I feel so good.
I mean, I had to. I definitely had to. So, I would love, before we actually get in deep with the whole conversation we're about to start with, I want to find out from you, your influences of music, from a young lady growing up in Gogola. Let's talk about the influences that you used to listen to. And do you think they were the driving force behind you actually pursuing music as a career?
I think I had a lot of influences. Mm-hmm. I mean, early days when I was living in Gogola, I have no real memory of, I was very young then, of listening to music so much than just being a kid who lived in an area that was very natural and there was a lot of fields. I walked in the bushes a lot, and I think the music was just in the air there. It's only when I moved to the city that I started listening to music a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was a very expressive child, so I kind of thought, this thing kind of speaks to me. It's, I related to it. I would always sing over people's songs on the radio. Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston used to be my favorite early favorites. Yeah. And with time and growth, I started identifying myself with certain genres. I was into hip hop for a while, but I was not a rapper. I was the chorus girl.
Oh, okay. Putting your vocals in there. Mm-hmm.
Putting my vocals in there. And then I grew up, that was like early adolescence. Yeah. And then I became a teenager, and then I became a young adult, and I got exposed to jazz music. I used to like movies, so I used to see jazz a lot on movies, and it kind of spoke to me. And I just related to the calmness of it, which I always relate to my years in the country, living Gakoko and the quietness. Musically, I really, really kind of relate to that. I like music that is calming, that comforting, that is insightful, those type of sounds, those type of words, and that kind of thing.
And then interestingly that you mentioned that, because amongst the interviews that you've had or the publications that have been written about you, there seems to be a trend in the sense that people say that you say you want to be, in your songs, you want the message, you want to be the voice of the voiceless, right? So I want us to touch base on that. How did you get to that element of the type of music that you want to do, and why say you want to be the voice of the voiceless?
I guess also growing up, a lot of the times, being an expressive child, you tend to stand out. Yeah. You tend to be misunderstood a lot. I remember my parents once with my younger sibling rebuking me for liking to smile too much, like you smile too much. Okay. And they made me feel really, really bad about it, and because I used to think that's my way of communication. Of course. That's my way of putting people at ease. They were basically saying I was too friendly. And growing up, that really confused me. They had no idea that they did that to me. We hurt each other in ways sometimes, and we don't realize it until it's too late sometimes. But sometimes it's also, I think God's way of just growing us. Yeah. We figure it out by ourselves. I don't think they were trying to hurt me initially. True. I think they were just trying to say, you're too nice, everybody's just going to bully you. They tried, but they did not succeed. I was not the nice bullyable type. Yeah. I was very tall for it anyways. So, experiencing that, and in different scenarios, in different contexts, where I was different all the time, and I had to explain myself. Why do you talk like this? You sound like you're from America. I grew up in the village, a part of my life. Yeah. But the moment I started speaking English, I don't know why I have an accent. It has to have to do something with my nose, and the fact that I took English seriously since at school. They used to beat the heck out of us to make sure we did speak it, so I took it seriously. Of course. So, when you are the kid who has the accent, you just stand out again, So early on, I developed that protectiveness towards myself and towards others. I was always the one standing for other kids even. If you're going to bully somebody, you're going to have to go through me.
Wow.
And that was like, thank God I had the height for it. I was very tall.
I was about to say, if you were short, it was going to be a problem, honestly.
Yeah, I was called Mutse. I don't know what they call tall kids these days. I can only imagine, with the whole vocabulary explosion.
Oh.
But I owned it at some point. And the moment I discovered I could sing, and I was allowed to. Well, I basically allowed myself. I was again the only person singing in my house. It just gave me the freedom to express, the freedom to create, and I knew early on, I suppose from listening to other people's music, that you are able to discuss issues, address issues, and at the same time kind of feel really, really good while doing it. Which is the aspect of entertainment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that answer so much. We're still decoding the one and only KHOLE right here on 88.2, 15 minutes past the hour 1. We're still halfway through the conversation. It's an interesting one. I mean, you can hear the music. The music speaks for itself. I don't even need to ask so many questions, because if you are a listener currently and you heard the previous questions about, the influences of what inspires the music, and then when you hear the song Engatseni, you just know. Even if when you see her on the streets, you just know what to ask her. But going back to the influences, like we did speak about, you just used to listen to a lot of Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston. Let's go back to now actually pursuing the music. You are now a backup singer for Italo. Let's talk about the lessons that you took from that and what you actually are now putting in place in your solo career currently that you took from your time with Italo.
Working with Italo was really, really amazing, because he was the first artist, and especially a professional artist, that I was able to work with.
Yeah.
I'm ever so grateful for him doing that for me. I learned a lot. I learned how to be on stage, and I even learned how to dress properly. Like really, really basic things, you know. And then I also learned music, when you're playing with people that are mature than you and a bit older than you get to just absorb a lot of information. And being the kind of person that I am, or kind of musician that I am, I love working with instrumentalists. Like I respect my band members like immensely. My music is not complete without that. I'm not a, techno type musician. I like the guitar, I love the piano, I love the drums. I tried my best to learn their expertise in what they're bringing in and how it affects my music.
Okay.
So I always try to spend time with that. And being in a band with Italo, and he always made sure that we played with the best. He'd bring in guys from South Africa, he'd pick the best guys locally. So, that was just being immersed in really, really, really good relationships and good schooling type of a thing, So I learned a lot, and when I stopped working with him, which wasn't really stop, when I started pursuing my own things, I was able to apply all of that. I was able to, when I pick musicians, I've been labeled as difficult at some point,
But it's only for the best outcome.
Well, people do that, when you know what you want. People have a tendency of saying you are being difficult. Why don't you just take anybody? You don't do that. You look for what you look for because you know what you want. And I learned a lot in Italo's band. And when I would, fix up things for myself, everything that I did was a reflection of what I learned, and more. Because then I was able to learn even from other people, just from what I learned when I was with him. So it was, what do you call it? You guys call it internship.
Yes, an internship.
For me, it's called, what do they call it?
Mentorship. Can you call it that?
Mentorship, okay. Yeah, there's this older word for it that I love. This really old type of, it's called, okay, I'll remember and I'll mention it. That kind of a thing, that mentorship, I think in any type of career is very important. That practical thing of being in the space with the people, and especially when you have so much respect for them.
Of course.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
It's almost equivalent as going to school. if not better.
And then I love that you mentioned, the fact that it has taught you how to also have an ear for good music and be able to pick the element that you want in your project. Let's talk about, the creative process now for you. How do you go about in creating a song? What do you need? What are the things that you need to feel or hear or see to be inspired to actually pen down something? Do you first need to listen to a session that the guitarist is going to have in the corner and like, okay, keep that up, and then you add a guitar and you're like, okay, I think I can write a few lyrics on top of the beats? What does the creative process look like for KHOLE?
I think artists have different processes. Personally, for me, I mix a kind of academic point of view of music, because there is an academic point of view of music, and also how do you say, expressional, an organic expressional way of. I fuse those two things, because first I have to, if I want to write a song, okay, I don't listen to any other music or anything like that, because that's one you do every day constantly. You're always listening to something, you're always looking every day, not necessarily thinking I'm going to write a song. It's a process of always being immersed in music, always being immersed in the environment. I like people, I like nature, all those things. I always try to, when I'm alone, but when I go out to people, it's intentional usually. I don't just like being out there for no apparent reason. If I want to be out there with people, I want to enjoy it. I want to hear people make noise. I want to hear people's gossip and stuff like that. What are they talking about? When I'm in nature, it's intentional. I want to breathe in fresh air, so I go to a clean place. All those things, those are the expressional things actually that you do constantly when you're an artist, when you're a writer. And then there is I don't know if I'm calling it right, maybe not the academic part, I'd say casually the more technical part. The technical part is that part where, like I said before, I have taken my time to try and understand what the drum does. Because music is made out of rhythm, melody, and what else? Beat. Yes. As they call it. There are those basic elements that you have in music. When you're writing a song and you've maybe sometimes you can start with the, what did I say it is again? The beats, the percussions. The technicalities, the technical parts. Sometimes you can start with them. Sometimes you have a drum beat in your head, like you're liking it, there's this drum beat that won't leave your head, or you heard something that sounds like, and then you start working on it. And then, you start thinking, okay, the bass line could actually go like that, and then the words and the expression part of it come later. For me, it works either way, different times, depending what just came up. And then sometimes I just have words, that come up, because I love poetry so much. Sometimes I have words, and then I start working on the melody by myself. I'll sit on my keyboard. I can play a bit of keyboard. I sit on my keyboard and I start messing around. Self-taught? Yes and no. Okay. So you had a few basics and then you polished up on them. Yes. Okay. It's important to have that. I hate the word academic because people get scared when you say academic. You need to get the technical part down as well. Yeah. It helps. It helps more, especially when you like working with live musicians, because you quickly understand what they're doing. You're quickly able to communicate what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And they're able to communicate to you, and you're able to understand what they're saying, because usually instrumentalists get the technical part very quickly before you. We can't be talking about, I just want that goof sound. I just want that. No. You have to use words, like there is a riff, there is a melody, I want those notes. I want a G minor and stuff like that. There's a whole language, there's a whole school of music. I'm learning right now. The jargon is a lot. So you have to, it's not a jargon, it's a language, it's English. It's its a whole language. Music has its own language, its own mathematics. And you have to learn the basics of that. Some people go to really, really high, crazy levels, but there's basics, and we all should get with the basics so that we're able to work together and communicate without any struggles. So my creative process usually is, I'll take a walk sometimes, or even a nice bath, and I get into my feels. I think about what I want to sing about or what I want to express, and I create the melody, I create the words. And if it's really exciting, like I experienced something yesterday, I jump out of the water and grab my phone and start singing it into my phone before I forget it, because trust me, you forget things, beautiful things. That's true. And sometimes I'm just, it's a melody, without the words. I'll play it on my keyboard and record it, or I'll sing it and I'll sing like a bass line, like a bass line for bass guitar.
Okay.
And just like do 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 do, because that's what's ringing in my head. And with time, I take the elements, put them together, and voila, you get a song. And for me, writing is a long process, and I enjoy it. Some people are really, really quick at it, like really, really quick at it.
But
I want to sit with a song for months. I've sat with songs for years.
So how long did it take for you to compile For Afro?
For Afro, it's how can I put it? It's been a journey. It wasn't like, now we are recording an album.
Yeah.
When I started writing, obviously I wanted to have an album, but being a live musician who likes working with musicians, other musicians, it's an expensive exercise. It's an intensive, expensive exercise that involves a lot of people and a lot of money. I'm overemphasizing. So when I just started writing songs from way back, like 10 years ago, I started writing songs. I recorded some of them, like Skhatsi Sami, which actually made my name. Skhatsi Sami made my name. You're so young, you don't know it. Oh, shame. I need to upload that song because you could be playing it right now.
Exactly.
That's one of my most beautiful songs. That's my baby. Everybody loved me for that song, and I loved the song itself. And another one called Nchige Mnyango. So I did singles. I've been churning out singles over the years, and finally, at some point, I started thinking seriously about an album.
Yeah.
I knocked on many doors. It was tough. People are afraid of investing in music.
That's true.
It's so sad, though, because, that's one of the things Swaziland is so behind in. People are so afraid of investing in arts. It's the weirdest thing.
And I want to hear your opinion on that after this. So let me get back. I want us to touch on that one. We're still hanging out with KHOLE right here on 88.2. Send through your questions. You're talking everything music. Since we are upon this project that has serenaded us, I was a fan. Literally, when I heard of the official drop, I just couldn't stop listening to it. It's currently on repeat. So I want us to talk about For Afro. You did mention before the musical break that it has been a very, hard time. You had to knock on doors. Some of them were closed. And then finally, a door must have opened and you were able to compile this beautiful piece of work.
Yes.
Let's talk about the emotional process that this has put you through and how you actually felt when it was actually complete and you are now getting ready to actually say, we're going for a launch. We're launching a full project.
Wow. I'm going to try my best to summarize that accordingly. I think life is a journey. At least I've learned that it is a serious journey.
Yeah.
And you are young, you're mature, and then you're mature, and then you're really mature. And when you're young, you make a lot of mistakes because you're learning. That's how you learn. You keep falling like a little baby and keep getting up until you get things right. So my musical journey has just been like that. It's just been a lot of falling and getting up, and getting depressed and, and not wanting to do music ever again. And then finally, growing up happens, But with every step, I think there's also the intervention of God. Because some people actually give up, and some people even die, during that journey. And I'm still here, and I'm grateful. At some point, I grew up, and at some point, I had to face up to a lot of things, and I had to shape up a lot of the mistakes. And in the arts, it's a big thing because we are not easily governed like any other career. We tend to be governors of ourselves. So that's why it's so sad sometimes to see other people not actually reaching their potential, because some people really do fall along the way badly. So I suppose I could say I'm one of the lucky ones. I've made it to this far, and I am hoping to make it even further.
Of course.
Eventually, I've always wanted to have a record label, but and everything I did was to try and attract that, whether it was from Swaziland or from abroad or wherever. I knocked those doors, and it didn't work out. But I was trying, and then just when I was like, no, I'm gonna just do it by myself now, and when I said I was gonna do it by myself, I realized that it might not be the quality that I want because now I'm going in it by myself. And that's a very, very stressful thing. And this was during COVID when I had come to that conclusion that, you know what, I am just going to record my songs before they're not recorded at all. What if I die, and then no one will ever know. At least if it's noisy, let it be noisy. And trust me, that was not a nice resolution to make. It was that's called settling these days. I was settling, like, hey, go gab.
For the bare minimum.
Like, I've tried and I don't see any way out. And since COVID, everything has stopped. So I used that time with the help of a very good friend of mine, Tlantla Shongwe, of Soul Friends, because I worked with a band called Soul Friends for like 2 years. And we would go to this friend's house, and he had this small little studio in the house, and we started recording. And immediately after we finished recording, bam, there came a record label. It was like knight in shining armor. New Life came, and we did one project. We did African Taximan. They wanted to shoot the video. I had recorded that song by myself, and that song was like a complete experiment. That was just my experiment, saying I'm going at this by myself. But then they came through and they said they wanted to shoot a video, and they shot what I really consider one of the most beautiful videos ever shot in this country. I love that video so much, and I've had a very good feedback from people. And then after that, I think they were assessing me, and after that they offered me a contract, and the story is history. Here we are.
And definitely here you are.
And here we are.
Project later.
Yeah, full project later. And now I had a team, so all of a sudden I had a professional team, people just in my, at my beck and call for everything, doing the best to make sure that we get the best. And, I was very scared. I was unsure so many times. I thought my music is so old, and I thought, I'm so irrelevant now. People have forgotten all about me in terms of being a recording artist, because I was a performing artist. I've been working. That's my life. That's my, that's my bread and butter. And, when you're a performer, people don't consider that you're famous. You don't have a work that everybody knows, and I didn't really care much about that. But the thing is, I am a writer, because some people are not writers, they just perform. But I am a writer, so that aspect of me had to, to manifest. It had to come to life. Yeah. If it didn't, it would be like half my life was not lived. So that happened, and New Life came through, and they have been amazing. They've been amazing. I'm so grateful to them. And we recorded, and we had ups and downs. Like, I'm sure you've heard all the stories about recording and stuff like that. Nothing was unique. Everything was pretty much just like J-Lo or Jay-Z or whatever. We go through the same things. Yeah. And eventually the day came, and here we are, and here we are. And I want to say, right at the end, before the launch, at the launch, I have never been more confident in my whole life. Wow. I've never been more satisfied and sure. I felt like God was there in his full presence, because I was like so sure. And I love the music. I love it so much. I mean, there were times when I had serious doubts, like, this is not quite it, But there was a time where everything came together. We had packaged, we had CDs. It was just time to go to launch. And when I listened, I couldn't believe it, because we'd come this far and everything was perfect. It literally was perfect. So I'm very, very proud of this work. I'm very proud of the team that I worked with, the musicians, the producer, my manager, Mr. P, Slaughter, the producer, the band, Mabi, Dando, all those guys. I'm so grateful to them. My backup singers, Babonagele and Asiswake. It just came together, and I'm grateful. I'm totally blessed, and I thank God so much.
And now moving forth, we're going to expect more new music, but after this, because I feel like this needs to sit for some time, we need to let it marinate, and we need to let it have some time, like fine wine. But now let's talk about the future. What collaborations would you say you are currently envisioning in your vision board, locally and abroad, when it comes to the Afro and the jazz space? Who are you looking at? Are you looking at people like Bomandi Sitiantis, Zonke, or internationally you're looking at, the greats when it comes to the jazz space?
Honestly speaking, I've never been one to get overly excited about the whole collaboration thing. Okay. I think it's a beautiful initiative that artists do from around the world, especially when exchanging cultures, cross borders and things like that. But it's one of those things that I have always felt that it must come naturally. If I meet an artist and we feel like we can do it, then that's going to happen. I've had a few offers, you know, and I have had to turn them down because of the reason that I just don't feel like we align.
Okay.
I'm a very honest person, I like to think, and I want my music to come across as honest as well. No pretentious, weird vibes in my music.
And it shows.
So I am actually anticipating collaborations. I'm not gonna, you know, say who, what. I don't want to.
Okay.
But see, count my
chickens before they hatch.
and besides, they say you're gonna jinx it, you know,
Yes.
keep things. There will be those surprises, definitely. Definitely.
No, definitely. I tried. Listener, I did try. Let's go on a musical break. When you come back, we're gonna play 5 at 5 with KHOLE. Find out who KHOLE is besides the music space, just as an individual.
Can I do a shout out
Not
on
a
my
problem.
friends on Instagram right now?
She's currently live on Instagram, so if you are a follower, you can definitely go listen to the conversation as well.
KHOLE_rehearsals. I've got Pinda Sibego on Instagram. Hi there. Oh, I love your comment. One of the best artists in the kingdom. Thank you so much. A huge shout out to KHOLE. There's also Bulelwa. Sent a request to be. Oh my God, he sent a request and I didn't answer. Bulelwa, you are in now. Let's go. I'm rushing now. I'm rushing.
Take your time.
Mvelo wants to know what inspired Ngwe. Hi, Mvelo. Love you, Nana. Ngwe, I wanted to write a love song. Write a love song because...
Were you in love at the time?
No, not at all. But I believe that love is important.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, you definitely have to always have a love song or love songs because love is what makes everything go around. God loves us, Jesus loves us, you know. So love is a very integral part of our existence, just like water. Introduced. Okay, okay, and then there's another question. First, Pindas Bego also asked, first time being to your music, it was through your songs Ngichika Emnyango. Those are my early songs.
Yes.
Skatsi Sami. Thank you so much. It touches my heart that you remember the songs. You know, I'm actually planning to re-record those songs.
Please do.
And launch them internationally because they were never launched. They were only launched locally. Yeah.
Please do. And hopefully, and not even hopefully, they're going to skyrocket to the level that we need them to.
Yeah.
We're still talking about For Afro and the lots. So we've literally just wrapped up everything. I mean, you have graced so many stages in the country and even across, you know, Africa and South Africa. Let's talk about one stage that for you is still in your heart. And, you know, it just, when you think back at it, you smile.
There's been a lot.
Let's just pick one.
Okay, I suppose one that stands out, I think, is when it was my early days of professional performance.
Okay.
Actually, I was still like in music school at the time,
All right.
and I was in Durban, and I did a show, my first big festival, actually. It was a Durban Jazz Blues Festival.
Ooh.
Yeah, and, you know, there was all these artists, and, you know, I shared the stage with people like Busim Tlongo, and I became such a huge fan of her, and I even have a picture of that evening. I never forget that because I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my whole entire life. But I loved it so much because most of the stars that I looked up to in South Africa were there.
Wow.
They were there, and it was such a close encounter because the arena, the place was not too big, so you were very close to the people, and you could rub shoulders, and, you know. So yeah, Jazz Blues Festival is one of my most memorable experiences.
Right.
Also, I think what seconds that is what's this festival that locally? It's Makoti Festival.
Ooh.
I loved the Makoti Festival. I was so proud to be a part of it because it's proudly Swazi. So Jay.
And celebrates women as well.
Yeah, and I got such a great response from the audience. Even the Divas concert, that was also amazing. Swazis must get into the culture of taking their arts seriously. Art is a serious thing. It's not just a play thing for when you want to have a good time. It's an important thing because it's where you go to appreciate, relax, and get reminded of some things that maybe you are a bit aloof of. That's why also you must be very discerning what kind of music you listen to. You must give most of this, especially live music, a chance, because it's healthy, for crying out loud. It's like good food, And in other countries, when I go to Mozambique, it always baffles me. The people there, they treat you like you're a superstar. The audience, that is. I'm not talking about the organizers and whatever. Trust me, organizers are the same everywhere. But the audience in Mozambique, they will always clap hands. They will always stand up. They have this culture, and it's something that I feel like Swazis need to seriously think about and adopt. Yeah. Appreciate your arts, because we are here to inspire you. That's our job.
Right. Thank you so much. And now, before I let you go, we like to play an interesting game with our guests, whereby we like to find out the top 5 from them. So it's called the 5 at 5. So it's a 5 at 5 with KHOLE. Right. Now we want to find out from you. You need to answer these questions as fast and as honestly as you can. Right. The first one is favorite book to read.
God of Little Things.
Right. Mountain climbing or scuba diving?
Definitely scuba diving.
Adventurous. And electrifying stage that you performed in or wish to perform on?
Bushfire.
Right. And then favorite hobby?
Wow. Singing.
I wouldn't have expected anything less at this point. And then lastly, what is KHOLE's favorite color?
Wow. Black.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I love black, and second to that, gold.
Okay, the gold part, yes.
Gold, black, gold, always black.
Thank you so much, KHOLE, for hanging out with us and actually having this conversation and actually just being so true to yourself and giving us music that is true to you. Yeah. Because if it's not true to you, how should we perceive it? So I'd like to say thank you so much, and for gracing us with For Afro and gracing your presence today, and all the best for the future, and waiting to see you at the Bushfire stage next year.
Thank you, Vandile.
I'm ready to put that out.
Pleasure. Yes, universe, we receive, we receive. Thank you so much for having me. This has been one of my best interviews ever. I've really had a good time here today.
Thank you.
I just encourage people to please follow me on Instagram.
Please drop your handles. Please do.
It's KHOLE_rehearsals.
Right.
Yeah, like
and then
rehearsals.
For booking details, head on over to New Life.
Yes. New Life Entertainment on Instagram. You'll find everything you need on Facebook. New Life Entertainment.
Right. And go and stream For Afro. It's available on Spotify and other streaming platforms as well.
Yes. Deezer, Apple Music, every reliable